should actually, what the person can see is what you should write. This is a rule, okay? This is not a perspective. If anybody disagrees, you're making a bad film. That's all it is, okay? You have to say, he turned away, walked to the window, looked outside, and if possible, you have to decide what lighting it will be. It's not literature, it's filmmaking. It's imagined as a film and then written. The writer sees the film and then writes it. You all see the film later, okay? But the writer first sees the film and then writes it. That's how, it's not literature. Although literary people like to think that, they can also write scripts. They can't actually, unless they have that skill too, And the third thing I will say, which is very different from literature, is this, and I'll stop at that, otherwise it'll become a lecture, it will not be a workshop, okay? The third thing I'll tell you is that, see, if I say, a boy or a girl or a evil-looking man, as many people in the room, you'll imagine those characters. But in a film, we don't do that. The filmmaker fixes that. There is no scope for your imagination. The filmmaker fixes that. And remember, the filmmaker fixes that with prejudice. Because, you can give a bottom angle, top angle, inform that picture with composition, with lighting, with music track, with costume, with editing. Basically, you fix the image and character uniformly for the audience. You do not allow their imagination to function there, unlike in literature, okay? So the responsibility of a filmmaker becomes enormous when you adapt a fully established work of art, which is a short story or a novel, and you take that into making a film. If you're departing from the purpose of the script, of the story, if you're furthering the purpose of the story, is a great responsibility for the filmmaker. You do it with that responsibility and consciously that, so when you don't understand the story, even then you're departing from the story. If you don't understand the intent of the story, even then you're departing from the story. To be as conscious as possible with what you're doing is the meaning of the responsibility, I'm saying, okay? These are the outlying things I wanted to say first. But because this is a workshop and our purpose is not to write from that some story that we want for this film, I will try and remain as faithful as possible to the purpose of the original story. Only then we can establish how it can translate, okay? You can deviate also, but that is your decision. But here I'm making a decision not to deviate from what I understand is the purpose of the original story, okay? Briefly, this is the story. I'll say it as briefly as possible. There is a writer. This writer, while he's cleaning the room or whatever, randomly finds a letter that was sent to him some 6 or 7 years ago. And when he reads the letter, he begins to recall the incidents that followed his receipt of this letter. This letter has come to him from a middle school classmate who shared a bench with him. He has not seen this classmate for the past 40 years. And his classmate is in trouble because he's agonized by lack of sleep that comes from nightmares that he's getting all the time. And he wants to see his writer classmate. As it turns out, he's an avid fan of these writers and this kind of writing that the writer has. This writer is a progressive writer, as we call in India, which means he's a left-wing revolutionary writer who is against communal people, caste system, feudal things, like everything that follows that. And he reads that. His classmate reads that kind of books, and as it turns out, he's got a separate shelf for this man's writing. And he's written to him. He responds quickly and he decides to go there. He's received by that man's, chamcha, who takes him to meet his friend. The writer's name is Bhagwan. The friend's name is Basve Gowda, who is suffering from nightmares. And they go to their house, and he finds out that he's like, he's got a wife who's very pleasant, but he's ill, he's great, sunken eyes, he's in great trouble. And when he tells him, look, I have these nightmares, he shows him the bookshelves. He sees a lot of revolutionary literature there and a separate bookshelf for himself. And that story happens over 3 nights. First night, he talks to him. He hears sounds from the room. He's troubled. Next day, that man's condition worsens. The following day also, it becomes even worse. And the backstory is that there is a village school teacher, a good person, and that guy is accused of actually instilling modernist notions into a feudal village. It gets the village very angry. It leads to incidents of this man being beaten up, the teacher being beaten up, the teacher's wife being stripped and paraded naked to humiliate. Then, what follows is a night of arson, a temple burns down. They blame this teacher for that. They blame this teacher for other things also. That village is a feudal place. This Basavegowda's writ ran there. The Basavegowda is a Kuruba. The Kurubas are the dominant community of that village. But what happens is that with modernist ideas, environmentalists begin to come to that place. Somebody says we should have more schools. Someone says, we should have a proper law and order system. A police come to the village to settle a dispute for the first time, and they blame this teacher for everything. When the temple burns down, they feel that this guy is responsible. They beat him up again. So all that has, in a sense, I'm interpreting, by reading revolutionary literature, this entirely feudal person has got into a conflict of the mind. And that guy, that teacher has been beaten up. That teacher has humiliated this man in public, the Gowda. The Gowda has to take revenge, but the revenge has been taken by the Kuruba community there. And he's troubled whether he's doing the right thing or not, perhaps. Maybe that's why he's bothered. So he writes to his friend, and his friend comes there, and his story he knows. Then he meets the teacher also the second day. The teacher gives a version of his story. The third day also nothing happens. 3 nights pass. The situation is getting worse. Third night he asks for whiskey. He drinks whiskey, and in the Dutch courage, as we call it, when he has some liquor, he goes and he offers a solution to the Gowda. He says, that guy is a Dalit, that teacher, and you are a feudal. So what you should do is, you should get a Dalit and wash his feet in. Then you will feel better. Now the thing is, the Gowda agrees to do it in the privacy of his room. So they get a Dalit boy called Joni, who's kind of newly married, a young man. And that guy is petrified while this guy washes his feet and all that, and he feels better. That guy is given some money and sent off. Joni is his name, that boy's. Next day he looks better. He's not come the whole day after that incident of the ritual. Whole day the Gowda and his chamcha are not seen. The next night, when he meets them, the Gowda is again sick. He falls sick again he has nightmares. So this guy has more drinks, this Bhagavan, the writer, and he suggests to him, look, this should be done publicly, not privately. So they arrange a pendal and all that the next day, and they call villagers, everyone gathers there. The school teacher is brought on stage, and on stage he washes his feet. The school teacher, who is also a Holaya, he's a Madiga, his feet are washed. And after he washes, he stands up, and the Gowda becomes like crazy. He begins to faint on stage. And just as he faints, he tells this guy, you know where I had gone yesterday? I and my chamcha had gone to the house of Joni, had to rape his wife, he says. And he falls down and he dies. Okay? And 1 year later, he gets a letter from this chamcha saying, Gowda's wife also is dead. Joni's wife has run away somewhere. Everything is fine. Like that's why you write, no? Everything okay. Like that, he writes a letter. That's how it ends. This is the story. For those who have not read, I'm saying. It's written with a great deal of irony and all, but this is the story. Now we'll try and convert this into a screen format. And I'll go scenario wise, what we can do first. First, we'll do some basic exercises, okay? I'll dwell a little bit about time later, okay? Films are written in time. Some films are not written in time. That's the exception, okay? Many films that are not written in time are just bad films, not worth discussing, okay? But films have to be written in time. It's the idea of unbroken time that builds up tension, to the point of epiphany, catharsis, or rasanubhava, whatever you want to call it. It's very important that time is there. And I'll come to that as a very detailed question because I'm obsessed with that idea, okay? But first we'll see space. Space as in setting, physical location, everything, okay? First there is a Bhagavan's home. This is where it begins. This is what we call a shell story. It begins with a letter and it ends with a letter. Okay? You just see that cyclical structure will be there in hundreds of films. Just try and recall. Okay? It begins at a place and it ends there. Okay? So that is a space. Then there is the village. We'll call it Gowda's village. Okay? There is a journey to that. Along the journey you get motorable 40-kilometer road. See, Lankesh himself was an award-winning filmmaker. He got the Swarna Kamal for his film in the 70s. Okay? So he already knew filmmaking. There's a very curious line in the short story. Those who have read, I want you to revisit it to see this line he writes, He uses this curious sentence. The writer is talking to the reader in a confessional sense. Okay? So he's saying, whose point of view should I take? It bothers me, he says. When I tell the story, whose point of view should I take? So when we say point of view in literature, we mean as one person feels. Okay? In cinema, when we say point of view, we mean where the camera is placed. Okay? It can also mean as one person thinks. And in cinema, by convention, we have a very peculiar problem. When I say my point of view shot to you, I should not be there in the shot. The camera takes my place and then it's a point of view shot. If I do an OSS shot, it is not point of view shot. It is a sympathetic point of view shot. Because the actor doesn't look into the lens by convention. Who looks into the lens? Arnab Goswami. That's what newsreader, person giving message to the public will look into. The person playing himself, herself can look into the lens. Person playing character will not look into the lens. By convention, sometimes it happens. In Tarkovsky's Stalker, at the end, she comes, his wife sits down, lights a cigarette, looks into the lens and talks. It happens sometimes, but that's the exception. The convention does not allow you to see. I've seen Rajinikanth films when Rajinikanth is always introduced in a song first. And as it turns, he look at the lens directly at some point in time. And he does this. Okay? and superstar Rajini will come. Okay, you've seen, no? And the moment he looks into the lens, the audience sees he stop being Annamalai, now he's Rajnikant, and they'll begin to cheer. Because people get the convention so well, you could look into the lens, you become yourself, So there is this motorable road. Oh, and other thing he says also, Lankesh, is very interesting. He says, see, I will try and relate the story through images in memory, he says, That's a very filmmaking way of thinking, okay? There is forest. It is very beautiful. Dyamappa, the chamcha, is talking to him throughout the journey. Okay, he's describing stuff throughout the journey, but it's a beautiful forest. It's important to say forest because I think from civilization, he's going to a murky area. It's also physically getting darker. And Lankesh says a beautiful line. He says, as we were approaching the place, it was getting darker and the trees seemed to be getting taller, he says, It's a very poetic image, And the writer has thoughts. This is a very difficult thing, how to shoot thoughts, okay? He has thoughts of his friend. The problem with these thoughts are that he's not seen his friend for 40 years. He can't recall his face, okay? But Lankesh needs to tell you that he has some affectionate memory of that person. And that memory is that they've unsuccessfully tried to walk through the forest to find Joke Falls one day. That memory he's got actually. Now I leave it in your heads because I'll keep on asking this question. Should that be shown in flashback? Think about it, don't answer it, okay? At the end, we'll have quarrel, okay? We'll ask questions and quarrel, okay? So just think about it. All this, I'll just leave it with you. Should we show this in flashback, okay? Dyamappa is a chatty guy. He's always talking. Actually, there is a line in the dialogue that he has written. He says, please can you be quiet for a moment? He says, because it's talking all the time, okay? Then they come closer to the, actually Gowda's home I should write here. Okay, and with this I'll call the village because it has its own surroundings. Everything has its own ambience also, that's why, okay? So from here he comes to approaches the village and then he approaches Gowda's house. This is its setting, okay? In the village, there is Shivappa's house, hut, Shivappa's hut we should call it. It is in the Dalit colony, Madigara Keri, that is where it is. That is Shivappa's hut is there. That's an important location. There is also one other location of the village thing, that is the pendal in the end, where the gathering happens. Okay? There is one more, which is actually the Gowda's plantation. And the village has streets. Beautiful places, as the story writer says. And the Gowda's home has got Gowda's room. Actually, I shouldn't write this. There's a cow shed. There's a writer where he's staying room. There's an area where they have breakfast or lunch or whatever. There's a backyard, there's a front yard. Okay? Done. These are the spaces. There's one more I should tell you. When he leaves, before the motorable road, there is a railway station. That's it. There's no other location. So if you're going to do a recce, what you do is you send somebody to take pictures of all these spaces, whether it's worth shooting in those spaces. And only when you have that image clearly, practically in your head, should you write this, the screenplay. Otherwise, you'll write something that cannot be shot. Okay? And the director or the producer will make a compromise on your behalf and break your heart. Okay? So try and be as practical as possible. Okay? This is the thing. The next one that I'm asking is more troublesome. Okay? Which is about time. What is the time of the film? Starting from the present. Is the present when he got the letter? It's a decision we have to make. Is the present when he got the letter? Or is the present when he found the letter 7 years later and dusted as his writing? I want to stick to that. But these questions can be there, okay? So he finds that letter after 7 years. From the present, okay, 7 years ago this has happened. The story within the story has happened 7 years ago. The story within the story is the story. The writer is a device. Okay? What we need to tell is the story within the story. That's the important thing. So that is 7 years ago. When he tried to show him Joke Falls, 40 years ago. Okay? When Shivappa, the teacher, came to the village, that must have been, 10 years ago maybe. When Shivappa began to teach and trouble in the village was brewing, that happened over 3 years. Before this 7 year ago incident happened, where he was beaten up, his wife was stripped and all that. Okay? All these problems of time are there in that. And then there's a problem of time that he gets a letter 7 years later, 1 year later, when he's told that this guy, that the wife has died also. Now, so that if this happened 7 years ago, that letter has come 6 years ago. Okay? Now, whose point of view do we take to write? Keeping time in mind. What is the problem of time in film? It's a problem of life. See, boy meets girl. Boy says, I love you to the girl. Girl says, no. Okay? Boy says, fine, I'll wait. No, I'm getting married to somebody else. Now, if you have time, like say 1,000 years, okay, already marry that person, like later we'll see. A film is possible typically because time is running out. It's because time is running out, a person will take risks or will make decisions that she would not have made otherwise. Right? It's because time is running out. See, when you don't know how to resolve it very well, time running out can be train will go away. How many films you've seen? Train will go away, plane will go away. I'm not saying Indian, anywhere around the world, okay? Time is running out. In India, they'll be like, you people are younger people, you wouldn't have enjoyed all this, but in our time films for like, he will just tie off the knot. And jeep will come, bike will come through the wedding hall saying, I'm going to marry her, kind of thing, Because if you tie the knot, it's over. Finished it is, okay? So the thing is, time running out. In all commercial films, it will be there. Time will be running out, okay? You need another thing when time is running out, because you keep trying, and the journey is non-reversible. That means, I'll come here. I need to leap into that chair to move on. I'm not a person I'm a coward, I can't leap. Or my leg is broken, I can't leap. I have to make the decision. Because I have to stop it before it happens. I leap, I'll fall. I can't go back, I can only go further. That's how you write it. In a full film, that's how you write it, okay? You can't go back. If you can go back, then there are many options. Once the plot point is crossed, the decision is made, it's inexorable. It head towards that, the resolution, it has to go. Okay? So the thing is, that time running out will become more and more intense because it has to be unbroken. Most films actually are not written to have an interval, except in Indian writing. We have interval point, otherwise most films are not written for interval because it actually creates hiatus. That means a loss of energy happens when you have that break. In fact, that is why in a good Indian film, completely inane and trivial things will happen before interval. Songs, comedy and all will happen. Only after interval the real story happens. Okay, so it's good writing actually to do that for an Indian commercial film because you have to accommodate the interval. Okay, or you write structurally where you arrive at a point, an impasse, you don't know what to do next, and people will wait for that. It has another start then, new turbo you need for it. Okay, for the story you start. So when you come, when the intensity of this thing of saying I don't know what to do comes, then epiphany happens. What is epiphany? From some random thing somebody says, you get the solution. I was on the wrong track till now. I suddenly get it. Asimov says that when I forget the scientist's name, when he discovered the formula for benzene in his head, he got up in the middle of the night because he had a nightmare of a snake swallowing its own tail. And he got up and said, Eureka, I got it. This is, and all of organic chemistry came into human control with that, with the formula for benzene. Now the thing is that if I get a nightmare, it's snake following its tail, I'll go and do Naga Puja or Naga Shanti or something. You should have great preparation for this. It's only when you have great preparation that epiphany has meaning. A random thing said solves it. What is that in the imitation game? He goes to the party. Somebody makes a casual remark at the party. He cracks the enigma. He runs from the party to, right? That's something, that is how epiphany happens. By the way, it will be there in all the films that you've seen. A moment of, aha, it will happen. And then it has to be followed by the chase because time is running out. That's why time is important. I've said so much about it. In this story, what is the element of time running out? Those who've read, I'm asking you. What is the element of time running out in this story? Absolutely correct. The Gowda's health is getting worse and worse and worse. If you don't do something, he's going to die. That is what justifies crazy decisions, risky decisions, completely strange things, or desperate measures are possible only because time is running out and you don't have a solution. That's why you'll try anything, In Bara, Anantnag is a rationalist. His IAS officer is a rationalist. Bara was written by Ananthamurthy, left-wing writer, And one man says, we should look after Goshala, and he comes and gives him some vibhuti. Anantnag throws it. He doesn't believe in all this. But they need water. They're so desperate. He calls a water diviner, And because it's Anantmurthy, because he loves to contradict himself, that water diviner gets water, okay? There's no explanation for it. Is it an accident? Is he has some special gifts? Is it divine? God knows if such a thing is there. What to say, right? So the thing is, you'll try something desperate only then. Okay? In Bara, they're waiting. The communal riot has happened in the city. They're waiting for the kid who's been sent to school to come home. The Jatkawala is a Muslim, and there's a communal riot, and the kid does not come home. They're standing in the street. It's dark. Parent extremely worried. Finally, in the night, a lonely Jatka comes there. And Anantnag sees him. And the Jatka rider says, there was a trouble in the town. The child, was hungry. So I took the child home. I've given him milk, I wanted trouble to die down to bring him home. Anantnag goes and hugs him. It's beautiful. And that tension is possible because a desperate thing has happened. Okay? A desperate thing that is positive. You cannot do a desperate thing that's negative. We all do this. You borrow money for pride, for greed, for one of the 7 deadly sins, no? You'll borrow money, right? So I'm saying a desperate thing happens. So in this case, the Gowda doing the ritual is a desperate thing. And it's suggested by the writer. Okay? So time is a very, without the element of time, nothing in the story can be justified. If you have a lot of time, see, Lankesh solves this answer also. He says, on the second night, the writer tells, I'll take him to Bangalore for treatment. The Gowda declines. He says, I've never stepped out of this village after my school days. My connection to the outside world are my books, he says. So he resolves that, you know. So in this space-time, we need to construct. I'm going to clean up this board, okay, on this. And I'll go through it by scenario now. Because I said we'll be faithful to the purpose of the story, I'll keep the shell structure, and we have actors also at the end of it. If you want, we will do a demo of how we can shoot a scene, okay? But we'll see, okay? We'll start with the writer getting the letter. At the end of the story, it has a date, no? 1998 or something it has, no? The last letter has a, right? I mean, there's a date, okay? 1988 or 1998, something is there. So we want to set the film in that kind of time. So let's say around 1990 we want to set it. Okay. 1990, a famous writer, how will his home be? If he's 40 kilometers from the thick of, you know, these forests, he is not in Bangalore. He is maybe in a town like, I'm assuming, since Jog Falls is there, Sagar or Shivamogga. Okay? And in film we cheat, something that is like that. We need to find a place like that. We cannot find Sagar or Shivamogga now. The Shivamogga bus stand does not look like Shivamogga at all. No? You need to find a place that looked like Shivamogga then, or Sagar then. Okay, that's your first work. You set his home. Where would he find the letter? The writer presumably has a writer's den or a study where he writes. He's surrounded by books. How old is the writer? '52. Yeah, 52, 55. Yeah, about there, right? It makes sense. 52, 55 when he went there. Correct? Middle school classmate. 40 years later, he's about 55 then. And he's telling us 7 years after that. So he's about, so he's in his 60s. And since caste is everything in the story, what caste is the writer? Straight away you can say he is not a Dalit and he is not a Kuruba. That you can say. You eliminate these two. Okay? He has to be one of the other. Lankesh is very clever. He does not let you identify the writer's caste by calling him Bhagavan. God knows what that is. Bhagavan means God. So, you know, like, what caste is God? Okay? So that is it. We don't know. He's some upper caste person, we have to assume. Does the writer have any other inner life? You know what inner life is? Does he have any other backstory? There is only one backstory for the writer that comes in the short story. Because of how Lankesh indicates to you that he suffers from guilt is that in his childhood, there is a boy called Ninga who calls him, who says, whether they should go to some academic place. And he has thought, how can a person like you come to such a place? Okay. And he worries whether that will give him nightmares now, he thinks. From that only you can guess. It's guilt that is this guy's problem. Okay. You have to guess from that. Question, should that be in the flashback? That Ninga asking him, should it be there? Keep that in your head, okay? Now, because we're sticking to the structure, we begin the story there with this writer. That he's got this letter. How do we do that? The writer is telling the story to us. In the short story. In the movie, what should we do, you think? That is our epilogue, scene 1 if you want. Okay. Prologue, not epilogue, prologue, scene 1 otherwise. What should it be? Scene 1, exterior of a house in Sagar, the writer's street. Okay. There's an element of rain in the film, in the story, okay? It's a cloudy day. Maybe it's drizzling slightly. You cut inside, okay? This writer is actually cleaning the room and he finds this letter, okay? Contents of the letter, how do we get but? Suggest to me, what shall we do? Opens the letter. You want to see the letter? That's not visually interesting, no? You have the voice of the writer. It's an easy device. There are many great movies. Sunset Boulevard, the body is floating in the pool. And as the camera actually top angle, it begins to zoom in. William Holden's voice says, before the Hollywood gossip magazines get to this story, let me tell you what happened. And the person is dead. In Harold Robbins' Stone for Danny Fisher, the dead person is saying, that's my niece, that's my sister, or whatever, as they come and place the stones on the grave, right? You can do it, So I would stick to that because the getting to the point of the story is important. Some elaborate device for this. Like in Madras Cafe, he goes to the church, there's a father and he confesses. Too much work it is. Yeah? So I'm saying don't do that. Just get to the point directly. Okay, somebody comes, he finds the letter and he calls his wife. Sharada, illi ba, I'm saying in Kannada. How many of you can follow Kannada? Okay, that's okay. So he says, ba, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡು ನಿಂಗೆ ನೆನಪಿದ್ಯಾ ನಾನು ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಆನಂದಪುರಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದೆ ರೈಲ್ವೆ ಸ್ಟೇಷನ್ಗೆ ನೋಡು ಆ ಕಾಗದ ನೋಡಿ ನನಗೆ ನೆನಪಾಯ್ತು. Waste of time. Okay. So he picks up the letter, okay, and he's talking to you now. He's reading the letter, but he's talking to you. This came to me 6 years ago. You begin the voiceover. Okay, in about a minute, you set that story straight. Okay, I said I'll go on Thursday as it's written there. Okay, cut. What is the next scene? Train station. Okay, he comes off the train arriving, don't want. Okay, it's expensive. Okay, okay. So. Or you can do jugad. You make the guy get up in the next previous station and wait. And he gets off. Dhyamappa has come by car to meet him. Dhyamappa is talkative. It's many times described in the story that he's a very talkative person. And Dhyamappa tells him about the place. We don't need much actually, Let me see what notes I have. See, Dhyamappa is the village accountant. In this case, Dhyamappa has written the letter, okay? So we know he is the village accountant because in the letter, it will be there, okay? He says, this is what he had written to me, he says. So we know he is a village accountant. Dhyamappa comes, and I'm assuming Dhyamappa will be, at this point of time, is maybe in his 30s. He's a village accountant, which is a government job. And the Basavegowda is an ex-administrator, a landlord of the Kirumallige village. He's losing speech, not speaking well. And there is this background. And this background, how do we get to know? Because should we have a flashback? They're sitting on the same bench. Should we have? You can have if you want. See, this is my answer to it. If you want, you can have a quick flash cut, they're on the same bench. But I would suggest if you're going to use the flash cut, you should put it in the letter side, letter scene. Should not do it here. Here it actually affects the energy of the transaction between him and Dhyamappa. When he's alone, you can put that, okay? Two kids, black and white, sepia tone, whatever style you like, you do. Huh? You said that he has not seen him for 40 years. You say all that, finish it off. That he's a successful writer, we will not say. We'll get Dhyamappa to say that. Dhyamappa says, I've read all your books. Why have read all your books? It's not there, that dialogue is not there, but I'm saying he can say, I've read all your books because, Nam Gaudru is a big fan of yours. He loves you. So we are all devoted to Gowda, not to you. So we've read all your books, he says. You're a great writer and all that, he says. And the 40-mile journey, Dhyamappa describes how they have forests and all that. But I'm saying don't describe now. Instead, you get Dhyamappa to describe other stuff that we need to know. There's a very crucial story of what happened to Shivappa. Okay? That cannot be said, I feel. That needs to be shot. That scenes of arson, his wife being stripped, him being beaten. It would be stupid to actually say it. It's so much action, it needs to be. So that flashback needs to be done. Okay? So now remember, flashback within flashback this is. Okay? So you have to be very careful about setting that flashback. The car is going through the forest. Okay? Don't waste your time showing the forest too much. You see the forest for 6 seconds, it's forest. Okay? After that, it shots in the calendar. There's no point to it, okay, after that, okay? So you get into the forest, and Dhyamappa says, because he asked this question to Dhyamappa, he says, how many schools are there, he says. How many schools? See, this, as it approached Kirumallige, he asked, Dhyamappa is the same caste as the Gowda. There's a conversation, you can put that dialogue. They were of Kuruba caste. Dhyamappa said, how many temples? How many landowners? Can you be quiet? And that he's a revolutionary author. How Basavegowda has become exactly the opposite, okay, in his life because of what Dhyamappa has told him. And how many schools? So I'm saying there is a question that he asks on how many, like, you are a revolutionary writer, and he says, you don't know, I've not met him for 40 years, he says. Then he says, you don't know about, Gaudru Eshtu Doddavaru, that he's the big man of the village. I'm also a distant relative. There are so many families, he begins to say, and you show that as a montage. let us say, because you introduce the village to us with that. You show the village setting quickly as he talks. And he keeps talking right through that. Okay? Because the writer says, I'm going to tell it to you through images. When Dyamappa is talking to him, he gets images in his head. I want to say this now because I'm going to show an exception on why you should not do it sometimes. Okay? He tells all that. That is, in that travel, he tells the village background. In quick montage, you reveal how Dyamappa is you have images. He's standing, everybody's sitting on the floor. Or he's sitting in a chair, everybody's sitting on the floor. Visually, instantly you can tell all this, okay? That is a feudal guy. And how environmentalists come, cops come, all that story he tells, which is a setting story of a changing, challenged village that is moving from feudal times to modern times. He says that. As you approach close to the village, it's got dark, the time has changed. Maybe you could put a little bit of rain, okay? Because the lighting changes and you begin to infuse some murkiness, some disturbance into the story. And he asks the question, how many schools are there? And Dyamappa says, that is the trouble. It is the school that started this problem. And he has this backstory of how this Dalit called Shivappa was appointed as a school teacher, how he came and started talking modern things, how environmentalists came, how cops came to the village, and how it led to an insulting incident where Shivappa insulted the Gauda, and how the Kuruba community got angry and they came, attacked him. They stripped his wife, paraded them, completely disturbing thing. And you do it in that atmospheric, because typically he says, Lankesh says they took torches and came in a procession, he says, which means it's night, and that live torch, that kerosene one, the flames are moving all the time, the shadows are moving, they cause disturbing images also. Okay, it's very useful for the story of the film. You say that in flashback, but those flashbacks come to him as images of what have happened. It is not the way Dyamappa is describing. Let Dyamappa say it completely blandly what happened. He does not say, people came, Lankesh is very poetic when he writes. But when you write the dialogue, you have to make it completely straightforward, People got angry, sir. They came, they attacked him. Okay. But you show the attack as images so that you get a counterpoint. It's always being narrated now, the story, remember? Right? By somebody or the other. And you show this montage. Now they come and stop in front of the house. You got the Shivappa stories also now. They stop in the house. And in the house, what happens? Quickly, 3 or 4 scenes. He's sitting in the jagali, we call it, like the porch of the house, of the village porch. He's sitting there. Lankesh says he couldn't even walk. How do we show he couldn't even walk? He tries to walk. He tries to greet him, collapses back into the chair. Okay? And then he says, come. It's a good thing you came. Okay? Cut that scene. Move next, inside. No, the wife comes there. He introduces him to his wife. Stop. Cut. Now he's taken around the house. I don't know how we can take him around. Maybe we should give him a walker, or Dyamappa helps him to walk. He takes him to the cowshed at the back, in the backyard. There are many people there. And this guy is very worried about his friend now. He shows him the bookshelves. He shows him the separate bookshelf of his books. Okay? And then he takes Dyamappa to a private place, the storeroom, as he calls it. These are all small scenes. In the storeroom, he asks Dyamappa, what happened? And Dyamappa, what in those images you see, and what is said there, that is not what he's going to tell now. What he will tell now will be what it implies now, because he says, he has been disturbed for a long time now. He can't even walk. He's not well at all. And he tells the burn, that Shivappa's story of, what happened in the backstory here. Now the thing is, you can stick to the original story and do it here exactly, or to give pace to the story, you should do it in the journey, because there is a sense of natural time in the journey where people talk, So I would suggest you use it there. Also, there's a shift of time, and you can use the surrounding setting, the rain and all that. And it's not the same thing in the privacy of a storeroom, okay, which rationally or is correct maybe, but I think cinematically it may not be so correct. So I'm saying this one you can take it into the previous section. And then they have dinner. They have dinner and then they go to the Gowda's room, and the Gowda tells him this thing. See, he sits, he holds his hand. They sit facing each other. He holds his hand and he tells him about nightmare. Now my question again, should the nightmare be shown? How many of you think the nightmare that the Gowda is getting, it's a very graphic nightmare, okay? How many of you think the nightmare should be shown? How many of you think it should not be shown? Okay, now this is what I mean by perspectives. I favor those who raised hands to say it should not be shown. And I'll tell you why. When Dyamappa is telling a story of what happened, it's a real story. It's actual incidents that have happened. Okay? And the writer, because he's a revolutionary writer, because he's a progressive, he imagines this. Okay? This feudalism, and he makes those images. When a person tells a nightmare, it can be frightening to the person who told the nightmare, who has the nightmare. It may not be frightening to me. That's the logic I'm trying to give. It is so subjective, the idea of a nightmare, I suggest you leave it alone. There's another reason also I would want to avoid showing that thing, because when you show the nightmare, it shows empathy or sympathy to Gowda that the filmmaker is imagining. Don't allow that. If this guy was saying he told me this nightmare, maybe then you can show that nightmare, but even then it would be wrong. How will you show it as frightening? It is not frightening to the writer, right? I mean, it's a problem thing for me. That's why I would suggest, but it's a perspective, neither right nor wrong. By this argument, I would suggest to you, don't show this nightmare. Yeah. It is because it is graphic, you shouldn't show it. There is no counterpoint to it. It becomes tautological in that sense, That is the reason. When Dyamappa tells the story of how Shivappa was bitten, I'll tell you, once I was in Davangere, I was in college that time, and I was a very, very lefty person at that time. Okay, and then one guy told me this. I was still in college, and he said, "Sir, you don't know our town. We will not tolerate nonsense. Once we cut off the breasts of a girl and paraded in the street," he said. Actually, to me, it's like even now, it's a horrifying story to me. It's nightmarish to me. He was boasting, but you get my point. Showing that thing will be in my point of view or his point of view. That is the problem. You want to get my point? That is why I'm saying be very careful about subjective image making. When it's useful, when it's not useful, we need to think. Okay? When he says that, nothing happens to him. When he begins to get nightmares, and from the writer's point of view, if you're showing, and he gets nightmares about something he has not seen, I think that is okay. But you have to be so, negotiate this part. It's a decision you make, okay? He tells him what nightmares he's got. That finishes the scene in the room. Then he goes inside to sleep. He hears strange sounds in the Gowda's room. He goes to the room. The house is dark. Everybody is sleeping, but he sees light leaking from beneath the door. That's how Lankesh writes it, like a film, okay? And he doesn't know whether he should knock or not. He can hear sounds. He feels rattled. He goes and sleeps. Night number 1. Okay, that is in our story. Next day morning, he gets up. Dhyamoppa takes him to the village streets. They go to the plantation. Dhyamoppa is telling him more stuff now. Not so important. But the important thing he tells him is that we have to go and meet Shivappa. They go to Shivappa's house. There is a Harijan Keri. There is a series of huts. The biggest hut is Shivappa's. They go inside. Shivappa and his wife are there. And Shivappa appears like a very decent person. And Shivappa says, "Sir, I never did any trouble. Actually, it is the Gowda that insulted me. So I talked back. That's all that happened. I never did any provocation," he says. Now there's a difficult problem. When he says that, the writer says, "I felt embarrassed because Shivappa assumed that I had come to question him on what he had done, and he was trying to give me an explanation, and I felt embarrassed by that," he says. It's important for the character and motivation of the writer. I have a question for you without having an answer myself. How do we do that? Should he say, "I'm embarrassed"? I think we have to find this answer with difficulty. It has to be acted. Huh? It has to be acted. Or you have to do dialogue that is not direct. I always feel dialogue should be like lighting or a phrase of music. It should not tell the story. It should give the mood and context. It should not tell the story itself. You know, it is preceded by another problem, and I think there's a solution in that. Shivappa wonders whether he should offer coffee. All you urban people may not know what it means, but anybody who's come from a village knows what it means. You know, you don't offer coffee to a higher caste person, okay? So Shivappa wonders whether he should offer coffee to this writer, which is the hint to you that he's an upper caste person. How do you find out if a person is upper caste or lower caste in a village? From the way they speak Kannada, you can tell, okay? In a city, you can't. That's why I like cities. I agree with Ambedkar, you know. Villages are dense of sin, ignorance, and superstition. Dark places, villages. I have no romance for villages, okay? So he wonders whether he should offer coffee. And the writer is thinking, should I ask him for a cup of coffee? This is not spoken. How do we do this? I'll tell you the obvious answer. We've already established the writer's voice in the beginning. Okay? And he's staring at him, at Shivappa. He says, "Sir, will you have something, sir?" He won't say coffee or milk, nothing he will say. And the writer comments, he's staring at him, he says, you know, I think he was wondering whether a Dalit can offer me a coffee, and I felt ashamed of my status as a revolutionary writer. If I cannot give confidence to such a person, what is the point of my writing? Maybe he thinks. It's a good thing to say, that's why. That maybe he says a line, he thinks a line like that. I was wondering whether I should make the move and ask him for a cup of coffee, he says, let us say. Okay? Which is a direct thing. It's not dialogue. It's like some direct thought said. I would say use it, because it's like, it is too literal otherwise, you know. So when he says that, you can make this comment as well. I felt embarrassed that he thought I had come to negotiate for the Gowda. He can directly say it. And then you can make it poetic by he thinks that thought, and in, you know, in Prakata, that means in the moment he says, can I have a cup of coffee, he says, let us say. It suddenly becomes a juxtaposition that is interesting then, you know. It has a moment of film also then. And he finishes with Shivappa. He goes, Gowda has become worse that day. He suggests we'll take him to Bangalore. Actually, then he says, 2 days happened like this, he says. Whether we need 2 days, we don't know. Okay, but we don't need 2 days. We just need this progression. He goes, it's become worse. Something has to be done now. You create the urgency. He says, we'll take him to Bangalore. Wife supports, Dyamappa supports, Gowda says no. Okay. This guy is disturbed all night, the writer. He asks Dyamappa, can you get me whiskey? Dyamappa is shocked that this person drinks whiskey. Actually, it's not shock, it's pretense. I'll tell you a Jej Patel story. Jej Patel, for those of you who are not from Karnataka, Jej Patel was our most intellectual politician, no match for him in Karnataka. And he was actually quite hilarious also because of his wit. And he was crazy. I'll give you an example of his wit. Somebody asked him when he was supporting Deve Gowda, saying, you know, aren't you a follower of Ramakrishna Hegde? He said, you know, in politics, I'm a follower of Rama. In my personal life, I'm a follower of Krishna, he said. And in Gujarat, somebody sued him. They took him to court, saying he's insulting Hindu gods. So Patel was completely hilarious, you know, the way he could talk. I was a reporter, and I would just go to assembly just to listen to him, because so funny he was. Anantnag told me this story. All this, Anantnag was a politician that time. All these people are campaigning together. Patel, Deve Gowda, Jalappa, you know, Hegde. That's the time Janata Dal swept Karnataka in 1994. They're campaigning together, and they're in Davangere. And Davangere is a very Lingayat-dominated place. So Patel is a Lingayat. Gowda is a Okkaliga. Ramakrishna is a Brahmin. Jalappa is an OBC. Like, all this is very important, remember, okay? So they have gone to one place, they finish the rally, and the politicians are taken for dinner. Pendal, vegetarian. Pendal, non-vegetarian is there. I'm saying this because this story is like that. It's culturally nuanced. And it's your responsibility to get the culture there into the story. Otherwise, none of this will make sense. Okay? That is why Dyamappa's conversation about caste, Kuruban, all is very important. And that thing about coffee, should we ask or not, is very important. It's culturally rich, that's why that context. So when they went, Patel started walking towards the non-vegetarian side. Now it's an election rally. All the chelas of Janata Dal, they don't want Patel to insult the Lingayats, who traditionally are vegetarian. They don't want, and he's a Lingayat leader, how can he go and eat in a non-vegetarian pendal? So they're like fretting, saying, you know, don't go kind of thing. So they ask Deve Gowda, will you come? They ask Deve Gowda, will you come towards the non-vegetarian thing? To hint to Patel that he shouldn't come. And Deve Gowda, as Anantnag imitated, singing, he says, and he walks towards the vegetarian side. Then Patel still doesn't get it. He's still walking towards the thing. He goes right up, picks up a plate, and he takes an egg and puts it on the plate. Okay? Now the chamcha needs to communicate more directly. The dialogue has to be stronger and more direct now. So he says, Sir, neevu motte tintira, sir. Yeah. Means, sir, do you eat egg? Okay? Saying don't eat egg, that's what it means. Not here. Okay, that's what it means. Okay? So he said, Sir, neevu motte tintira. And Patel turns to him and says, I said it in Kannada first, okay? ಅದೇನಾದ್ರೂ ಅವನು ಬಿಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ. He says, why egg? I haven't spelled the egg's mother also, he said. Okay. See, this is like, nobody is outraged. Neither the guy who is saying don't eat, nor Patel, nor anybody is outraged. But you need to keep a pretenses. It's like that. Dyamappa here is a comic character, okay? He says whiskey. Sir, whiskey na sir? He will say, because as though it is some, probably he also drinks, but. So he does that and he makes a big fuss and he brings the whiskey. That fuss is important because whiskey is the instrument of the risk taking. Okay? So you need to write that scene in diversion. Diversion means the point that whiskey is the device here, we should not make a point. We should do comedy there, which is how it is written. You make a comical scene with it so that the idea of getting whiskey is hidden, it becomes casual. But actually it's a very crucial thing in the story. Then you have to cut to the scene where this guy is drinking. It should be funny, like, Dyamappa is pouring soda and stuff like that. He doesn't drink, he'll be standing like a chamcha would do, Man drinks and he's got pressure. Dyamappa is saying, he's going to, what shall we do? He's going to die. You create more tension. The wife is crying inside. All that happens. Then, I forgot to tell one thing. In Shivappa's house, he can hear moaning of Shivappa's wife in the room. That is there. It's a important disturbing element, So he's worried and he doesn't know what to do. This woman is also crying at home, let us say. Then in the heat of the whiskey, all his revolutionary fervor rises in him. And Lankesh is very ironical with this. In his another novel, Mussanjaya Katha Prasanga, there's a character called Udupa. Of course, that Udupa is actually Anantamurthy. He's mocking his own friend, okay? Bringing him as a character in his novel. And there's a guy called Sreshti, whose daughter has run away with a Dalit. Lankesh is obsessed with this, okay? So, the Sreshti Sreshti is a very rich man. And he's mad, okay? It's not senility, it's worse. He's just lost his mind. He calls, I believe you are a professor and you are a very bright person. You know many things. So, he doesn't know how to answer. Udupa is sitting. And that man, to show he's crazy, that man shows the bed and he says, this is where my wife and I had our first night. Completely unnecessary information. So Udupa is like lost for words. He's just staring at him. And he says, I believe you're a very bright person with many ideas to change society. See, my wife is dead. My daughter ran away with a Dalit. I don't know what to do. I have a lot of money. And he opens the safe. And he says a lot of jewelry, money is there. All this is there. Please take it. See how you can use it usefully. Yes. And Udupa, as Lankesh describes this, takes out a handkerchief and begins to wipe the sweat from his face because Lankesh is saying it's okay to have theories. How will you do anything practical is what he means. It is like that here, He's got all these revolutionary ideas. What will you do now? Whiskey gives you courage. So he walks into Gowda's room and he says, I know how you can be cured. Gowda says, how? And I will tell you, you have to do what I tell you. He says, I'm dying, I'll do anything you say. He takes Dyamappa outside and whispers something to his ear. Okay, it's a hook. Because it's done, we are going to see that now. It's a promise when that is done. We are going to see what is suggested. So the next day, Joni, a dark Dalit boy, is brought to the cowshed and some ritual stuff is set up there. And ceremonially, Dyamappa washes Joni's feet. Okay? It is a kind of absolution for being so feudal. He does that. Next morning, he wakes up probably hungover and late. He can't see Dyamappa or the Gowda. But he is actually thrilled that Gowda has become fit enough that he can walk around. He waits till afternoon, waits till evening, and midnight they come. How do we do that? How many of you have seen Swades? In Swades, she sends him to the village to actually collect rent from a poor man. Okay? He arrives there, they're talking, time lapse. Children are eating, time lapse. Children are sleeping. Okay? 3 times of day. You've shown passage of time. It's a device. This is the thing about cinema, you can do anything you want. Because you can jump time and you can jump space. You can't do it as well and as casually and brutally as you can do it in cinema. Because of the power of editing, you can do it, okay? So that he's waiting is important because it also builds suspense, right? After midnight, they come. And the Gowda looks very fit, very happy. He says, "Where did you go?" The Gowda just smiles and goes off. He doesn't answer. He asks Dyamappa. Dyamappa is also evasive, it doesn't tell him. But in the middle of the night, again there are sounds. Remember, this is a repeated thing. It's happened the first night he came. Again the same sounds from the Gowda's room. Again the Gowda is disturbed, but this time he's become worse. He's become almost crazy. So this guy has got whiskey still left from previous night. Full bottle has been brought. He asks Dyamappa to bring the whiskey and he begins to drink in that room. And as he drinks, he gets more and more courage and becomes wilder with his ideas. He says, "You should not have done a private absolution. You should do it in public. Ahankara bittu madbekidanna," and all that he says. And the Gowda also agrees. Perhaps Gowda also drinks, I don't know. Maybe that's too much, okay? But so he agrees. So the next day, that's the climax. People are gathered, a pandal has been erected, okay? And everybody comes there. Shivappa is brought on stage, okay? And publicly, the Gowda begins to do this. The crowd is completely agitated by what he is doing, okay? This guy is giving a speech, the writer talking about revolutionary ideas. And then the Gowda becomes faint and he says, "I did this." It's a classic. I don't know how we can handle that moment, okay? My point is that it is public is necessary, okay? But that a pandal should be built may not be necessary. I feel you should use maybe a permanent structure. The burnt down temple is there. They're actually building, reconstructing the temple, let us say, but there's a platform available there. And a temple is a place of, a village temple is a place of common faith, okay? And in a place like that, let's say you call, I think it's more picturesque than building a shamiana, okay? You bring there and he makes this confessional, public atonement for his feudal character. And he dies. That's the climax. No film can finish with the climax. Correct? You must have that walking into the sunset shot. In a literal sense, what it means is, from the common pool of characters in the film, a protagonist emerges, girl or boy. The protagonist carries purpose that is fraught with high risk. That is why the underdog is important. I mean, if he's a very powerful person, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the rival looks like me, it's not an exciting film, okay? It should be the other way around. Then it's interesting. So you create a monster problem which is thematic. Conflicts are thematic. Theme means not subject. Theme means man versus Man means woman as well, man versus unseen, God, Satan, Mula Nakshatra, whatever, like things you can't go and fix. Two, man versus nature, the five elements. Three, man versus society, law, family, office, school, rules. Four, man versus one other. It doesn't concern anybody else. It's some private thing that has gone wrong. Okay. Five, man versus himself. Action, you're divided, whether to do this or not. You have limited resources, limited time always. Okay. And you need to do something. You can do either this or that. It's a binary. Action is binary. It's not, that conflict has no shades of gray. You can only do this or that. Actually, it doesn't mean. You can only do this or not, it means. You know the right thing to do. Whether you do it or not, that's all it is. Okay, you're conflicted. So this problem is there and you need to resolve it. This is the thematic conflict. And once that conflict is resolved, what do you do with the protagonist? Typically, we give the protagonist another purpose. Till now, we want to do one thing. At the end of it, end of the climax, you give another purpose. The journey to another place, walking into the sunset, is that. You're done with this. Now you're starting with something else, it means. But usually what is given, you come to do something, but you get the girl in the end. That's it. That's the other purpose. Basically, you need the anticlimax, and that's the shell structure. You come back to the writer's house, and he finishes the story. Okay? Because he needs to exit the story, that's why. Okay? And get on with his life. This is the way that story goes. And I'll stop from the structural side on how it can be done. You tell me what can be done scene by scene. Ask any question, make any suggestion, we'll discuss it. And there are actors, if you want, we can stage something. But I'll tell you, I'm not forcing that because, you need property and all that to do it correctly, okay? But if you want, we can do that. But I don't know how much time do we have, Anand? So you can ask questions, make suggestions.
My name is Rajat. One thing something which I didn't get in this story when I read it yesterday, Lankesh sir has has given details about Gaudru and the writer Bhagwan. But Shivappa character, because when you explain the scene when he goes when the writer goes to his house and there is a conflict, the coffee thing is there, sir. At that time, that I didn't understand whether how Shivappa takes on his, like, he's a teacher, he's educated, so the caste system, does he have it on his head or he doesn't have it?
See, Lankesh is saying something remarkable here. It does not matter that if you read revolutionary literature, it's not going to change your feudal character. He's saying it about the Gauda. And about Shivappa and his wife, he says something so tragic. In the end, Dyamappa writes, Sir, I fall at I prostrate at your educated feet, kind of letter he writes. He says, I'm sad to tell you that Gauda's wife also passed away. Things are going on well in the village. A school has started, a new school has started. They're talking about starting a police station here. Environmentalists, are doing activities here. And Joni's wife ran away with somebody. Okay, I'm not saying it in the correct order maybe, but for me that's the most striking one. So I put that in the end, okay? Joni's wife ran away with somebody means what, I'll tell you. It means that the fact that she was raped, in her mind emasculates Joni for her. That he cannot offer her protection. She does not blame the system, and she does not see him as a co-victim with her. That's what Lankesh seems to be suggesting. So my answer to your question is that it does not matter what Shivappa thinks. Caste is a hard, ossified, ever-hardening structural reality of India. You can change religion in India, you cannot change caste. And that's a terrifying problem. That is the problem of the film, actually.
So this screenplay, actually why I asked this question is, you told how we can show it on screen, the coffee thing.
See, in the story, I didn't even mention it, but those who've read the story knows that Lankesh says that Shivappa sings a song.
Yes.
Yeah. It's so strong, I mean, if he sings a song, if he has the correct voice, if you have the correct actor, and he sings a song, that's the pain that he can communicate and the inner life that he can communicate in that song. And when the wife is moaning inside in a room that you cannot see her, can be extremely powerful. You don't need a long thing for that.
The thing is, when you explain that, I got a scene in my head that the wife actually tries to get the water or coffee something. Shivappa suggests no, there only no. But since he,
but the thing is, see, that Shivappa is modern.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a Dalit, but he's modern.
Yeah, exactly.
He will not say no.
Exactly.
Why will he say? Okay, but he may think that this guy is feudal. So he will not dare to offer. It's not that he's caste,
exactly, sir.
But he cannot trust the other person.
Yeah.
That is why it's better to put it in this guy's voice than Shivappa's.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Was this useful at all? I love this story. Lankesh is my guru.
ಗುಡ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ನೂನ್ ಸರ್. ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಸಾಯಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣ, ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೇ ಕೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ನಾನು ಫಿಲ್ಮಿ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಗ್ರೌಂಡಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಸರ್. ನಮ್ಮ ತಂದೆಯವರು ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರು. ನನಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಫಿಲ್ಮಿ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಅಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಬರೋದು ಗಾಂಧಿನಗರ. ಈಗ ಈ ನಡುವೆ ಅನ್ಕನ್ವೆನ್ಷನಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಕೆಲವರು ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ನಾನು ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ರೆ. ಕನ್ವೆನ್ಷನಲ್ ಅನ್ಕನ್ವೆನ್ಷನಲ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್. ಫಿಲ್ಮಿ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಗ್ರೌಂಡಿಂದ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ಈ ಕಥೆನ ಕನ್ವೆನ್ಷನಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, ಅನ್ಕನ್ವೆನ್ಷನಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು? ಇವಾಗ ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿರೋದು ಕನ್ವೆನ್ಷನಲ್ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸ್ತಿದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಅನ್ಕನ್ವೆನ್ಷನಲ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ತಿರುಗಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಏನು ಅಂತ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಈ ಕಥೆನ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ?
ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಸತ್ಯವಾಗಿ, ಅನ್ಕನ್ವೆನ್ಷನಲ್ ಅಂದರೆ ನನಗೂ ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ನೋಡಿ, ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್. It's a great craft. It is conventional. Cinema is possible because of the convention of cinema. See, what I mean by that is, ಈಗ verisimilitude is a convention of cinema. ಹಂಗಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಂತೀವಿ, ಈಗ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೇ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಅಕ್ಟೋಬರ್ 12, 13 4 ಶೋ ಕೋಪನ್ಹೇಗನ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ನಾಟಕ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ. ನಾನು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಡೇನಿಷ್ ಸೈಂಟಿಸ್ಟ್ ನೀಲ್ಸ್ ಬೋರ್ ಪಾತ್ರ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ, ಆಯಿತಾ? ನಾನು ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ನಟ ಆಗಿದ್ರು ಸಿನಿಮಾದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀಲ್ಸ್ ಬೋರ್ ಪಾತ್ರ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. Not because it's not possible. You can shoot me at Niels Bohr in a film as well. But the convention of cinema does not allow. And ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ವ್ಯಾಲಿಡ್. ಆರ್ಟ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮರು ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಅವ್ರು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ, ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ಅವರು ಯಾರೂ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಇಸ್ ಡನ್ ಬೈ ಕನ್ವೆನ್ಷನ್. ಈಗ ನಾನು ಕಾರಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ, ಗೇಟಲ್ಲಿ ಇಳಿತೀನಿ, ಆ ಗೇಟ್ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಆ ಗೇಟ್ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಂಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಡೋರ್ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಎಡಿಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಧ್ಯೆ ನಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದು ತೋರಿಸಲ್ಲ ನಾವು. ಅದು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಒಪ್ಕೋತೀರಾ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ಸಿನಿಮಾಲಿ ಜಂಪಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವು ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಟ್ರೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಕ್ಲೋಸಪ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀವಿ, ಕ್ಲೋಸಪ್ ಇರುತ್ತಾ? ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಅದು? Is it even natural, close-up? But if people have got trained, there is a convention of cinema on how to use close-up. And people have become attuned to that. ನಾನು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ಅನ್ಕನ್ವೆನ್ಷನಲ್ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಅಂದರೆ ಏನು ಅಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ.
ಇಲ್ಲ, ತುಂಬ ಜನ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಸರ್, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ
ಅದೇ,
ಕೇಳಿದೆ.
ಅಲ್ಲ ನಾನು ಒಪ್ಕೋತೀನಿ, ನನಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಏನಂತ ಅದು.
ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಸರ್?
ಹ್ಮ್.
ಸರ್, ಈಗ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ ಟೆಲ್ಲಿಂಗಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ನಡುವೆ ನಾವು ಗಾಂಧಿನಗರ ಆಗಲಿ, ಮೈನ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೀಮ್ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಆಗಲಿ, ಬೇರೆ ಪ್ಯಾರಲಲ್ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಆಗಲಿ, ಈಗ ಮೋರಲ್ ಇರೋ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟು ಅಥವಾ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಓರಿಯೆಂಟೆಡ್ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ತೊಗೊಂಡೋದ್ರೆ ಬೇಡ ಅಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಎವ್ರಿವೇರ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಿರಬೇಕು ಅದು ಇದು ಅಂತ. ಈ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ ಟೆಲ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ನಾವು ಮೋರಲ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ವಾ, ಅಥವಾ ನಾವು ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದಾ?
ಹಂಗಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿ, ನಾನು ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ನಿಮಗೆ, ನಾನು ಕಲೆಯದೇನೋ ಒಂದು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಅಂತ. ಬಟ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಸೇ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್, ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಲಿ ಅಂತ.
ನೋ ಇಶ್ಯೂ.
ಸಿ, I have a definition of art. That which is not itself, only that can be art. If a thing mean itself, I wouldn't call it art. ಅಂದರೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ, when that girl says, ನಾಳೆ ನಾವಿಬ್ಬರು ಒಂದು ಮರ ನೆಡೋಣ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾಳೆ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಇಟ್ ಶುಡ್ ಮೀನ್ ಐ ಲವ್ ಯು. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೋರ್ ಪೊಯಿಟಿಕ್ ದೆನ್ ಐ ಲವ್ ಯು. ಸಿನಿಮಾಲ್ ಹಂಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ಕಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹಂಗೆ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಸಿಂಬಾಲಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಗಾಟ್ ಮೋರ್ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ದೆನ್ ಡೈಲಾಗ್. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೈ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ಟಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್. ಅದು ವಾಚ್ಯ ಆದಾಗ, ವೆನ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್, ಇಟ್ ಲೂಸಸ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಪವರ್. That is why message films are boring, because if you are going to give a message, one placard beginning ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತಂದಿಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬರೆದ್ಬಿಡಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಬಿಗಿನಿಂಗಲ್ಲೇ, ಯಾಕೆ ಟೈಮ್ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ನೀವು ಎಸ್ಥೆಟಿಕಲಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಅನುಭವದಿಂದ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನು ಕಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕಟ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಅದರ ಕಷ್ಟನ, ಅದರ ಪರಿಹಾರ, ಅದನ್ನು ನೀವು ಕಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಘರ್ಷಣೆಯನ್ನು ಕಟ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು ನಮಗೆ. ನೀವು ಕಟ್ಕೊಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ವ್ಯವಧಾನ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ, ನೀವು ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಕಲೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಮೆಸೇಜೇ ಸಾಕೋದಕ್ಕೆ. ಸಿ, ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ಎ ಸ್ಲೋಗನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಎ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್, ಇನ್ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಕಾಂಟ್ ನೋ ದಿಸ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಟೆರಿಬಲ್. ನನ್ನ ಈ ಕತೆ ಉದಾಹರಣೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಸೋ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್, ದಿಸ್ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ. ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಯು ಗೆಟ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಇಟ್? What is the message Lankesh is giving in the story? Actually, what he does is he presents a picture to you of a conflict between feudalism and modernism in an exteriority. ಅಂದರೆ ಬಹಿರಂಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದರದ್ದು ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋದೊಂದು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಮು, ಮತ್ತು ಅಂತರಂಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ ಎ ಇಂಟೀರಿಯಾರಿಟಿ, ಹೌ ದ ಗೌಡ ಹಿಮ್ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾನ್ಫ್ಲಿಕ್ಟೆಡ್ between his love of revolutionary literature and his hidebound hard feudalism, right? It is extraordinary that he builds that conflict so casually without ever saying it. There is no, this line is never said in the film, in the story. Actually, when I'll tell you one more interesting thing. The conflict is not between the writer and the Gowda. See, that's an obvious temptation. Writer, good guy, Gowda, bad guy, He makes the writer helpless also. And when the writer suggests something radical, it becomes worse than before. Because the Gowda has washed that Joni's feet, his feudalism kicks in, his caste kicks in. To compensate for that, he thinks I can go and rape. He and Dyamappa go and rape Joni's wife. That thing is there. So is the writer guilty or not? Lankesh doesn't suggest that. He allows you to be disturbed by it. That's his point, I'm saying hangirbeku message andre ildare ಬೋರು.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Next. Yeah.
So,
no, I have not seen, but I must see it. It's an interesting idea, and I must see it. But there are many films like that coming in India now. See, India is in a very fortunate zone now, that you can do all kinds of films, which are getting some traction with the audience, I'll see it though. Sorry, yes.
ಹಲೋ ಸರ್, ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಮುದಸ್ಸಿರ್ ಅಹಮದ್ ಅಂತ. In this entire journey, you did not discuss about storyboarding, how important it is.
See, actually, I did not say it like that because this whole thing of, I will I'll write the storyboard is a much later detail of it, okay? But I briefly hinted at it that you go actually do a recce and see the places where you'll set the scenes, okay? So if you have that in your imagination, you already have a storyboard in your head. Somebody has to produce that. You may not be know how to sketch. You have to tell somebody to do that. But for that, you have to have the picture in your head. See, I'll tell you the problem with storyboard otherwise. The person who has the skill to draw, okay, may not have the skill to make the film. Okay. The thing is, storyboarding is a setting not just of composition, but of context. Okay. So the storyboard has to come from the filmmaker. And he can tell an artist what he wants. Okay, Satyajit Ray did it himself. So I will say storyboard is a much later detail in it. The idea of context and setting is the most crucial first step. I haven't talked about something even more important, although I'm hinting at it many times. You know the word treatment that they use. What should be the pace of this film? What kind of instrument should be used for background music for it? When the writer is in his room, supposing he switches on his mobile phone or at that time a tape recorder, okay, and he's listening to jazz music, it's incongruous, right? In the privacy of his room, he's listening to Thelonious Monk, okay, and he hears the Gowda screaming. He goes there, the Gowda is ranting, okay. In that setting, it doesn't fit. But the writer's revolutionary thoughts actually jamta nahi hai, in the reality of India. Is what it could mean metaphorically as well, So treatment is a very good idea. That's why I said, a torchlit thing with the flame moving, is disturbance. That's an idea of treatment. And this is the semiotic world. What colors you use, you make a palette for the film. I'll have only those palettes. I'll use only those colors, and I will violate the palette for incongruity. He'll be wearing something that doesn't fit there. He'll be wearing shoes, but he'll be walking in the plantation. It has rained, and is constantly worrying about his shoes getting dirty. Let us say, whereas Dhyamappa, however feudal he is, he fits into that place. He walks casually and easily there, let us say. All those things are extremely important contrasts, but that's a level of detail that I was not willing to discuss. But if you're saying treatment is a very important idea, more than storyboard, you decide on treatment. And I'm saying the story is told in irony. I'm asking you a different question. Do you think the Gowda is a victim or the Gowda is a villain? You see why there is silence. It should have been obvious, but that's the quality of the story, that it's not obvious to answer. You see?
According to me, he is a victim of feudalism.
No, correct. But I'm saying you decide the treatment then on how you look at him. He's doing bad things as well. He goes and rapes that woman. If he's beaten to death, I don't mind. I'm telling you honestly. Victim or not, I don't care. Okay? But you have to make a decision on that person. Now the thing is that you don't get, it's not like the director should not come in a PIP on the screen and say, I'm angry with this, that's why I've done this scene like this, okay? Sometimes films are made like that, it's very irritating. It's also the director is there, Kamal Haasan in Vishwarupam, he does that sequence. And then in slow motion, he's showing how he did it. You feel like you're watching a documentary. Arey, what is wrong with you? I just saw it. Why are you showing it to me again? Because he wants to show how well he has done it. You know, sometimes directors are like that. You know, they push this thing into your face. So you decide with what distance you do. This is a film because caste system and feudalism are obvious things. You do it in irony. You do it at great distance. You know.
And the other question is about editing. See, I have also done some other shootings and a lot of things. When we shoot a scene as you have described, when it comes to editing, it takes a different look. Means we do not know what comes first, what comes second, and how do you define editing?
See, I'm saying we have this theory that, you know, I wish Mahesh were here. He would have answered that well. See, we have this theory that a film is first seen, you know, then it is shot, and then it is written. Okay, it's a saying, you know. Actually, what we mean by that is that the film writer actually sees the film in his head and he writes it. Okay. Then a production team kicks in. They looks at location. They look at actors. I told you, know, when the writer writes the thing is saying, you know, she's a beautiful girl, or she's a feisty person, or that she has a sense of humor, and all he writes. Okay, to find the character, there's a gap between what you have imagined and the fixing of it, right? That needs to be negotiated. That's the creative process of actually shooting the film. Okay, it's a different creative process from actually writing the film. And in editing, it is fixed. That gap is negotiated, and as close as possible to the purpose of your original script, you try to do it in editing. That is what we say. And post-production gives you some opportunity to color it with music, with editing, with the speed of editing. What should be the pace of such a film? What should be its pace? You know, you decide that, you know. So I'm saying all these are decisions. In engineering, I'm an engineering student. We have this great line. Design is not something that evolves. Design is decision. You have many ways of doing it. You decide I'll do it like this, you know. And your treatment comes from that decision, that of the distance you keep from, primarily, treatment comes from the distance you keep from the film. The Gowdas, he says, you know, yesterday, Dyamappa and I went to rape Joni's wife, he says. Then, will you do Bhagwan, the writer's reaction in 48 frames? Some people do that, no? When like 48 frames, like, they love it, you know. Earlier we had this, you know, thing. Now we have 48 frames. When you're crossing a person, slow wipe, 48 frames. I will show you 48 frames. See, the thing is that's treatment. It's become a cliche because it's made some impact and you begin to employ it crazily. You can employ it well as well. You have to make that decision, that's all.
Sorry, there is. You can ask him outside. Please don't mind because the
Offside
person
we
is-
can talk, okay?
Yeah. We'll ask one last question and close this because
Okay.
we have another session after.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. My name is Arvind. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Just one more question about how, when you have a story in your mind and you convert it into a script, how much of an impact? Please take me through your thought process on how much of an impact how much of the audience that you're catering to would you consider into the script? Like building the scenes, however.
See, when you write a story, you have a man who would be God character like Rama, for instance, who goes and shoots Wali from behind, and Wali dies. I was talking about this yesterday to somebody. Rama is such a hero. All this could have been settled easily. You know, when Wali comes, Rama does some karate stuff and kills him. If it was a Rajnikant, the Ramayana would have been an easy battle, okay? You wouldn't have needed that monkey. Rajnikant only would have like jumped over the wall, you know. Why would the writer create difficulties for him? Because to make him the underdog, to make him commit mistakes, to make him take steps that he wouldn't have taken before is important to the thematic conflict of the story. He's up against something that he can't easily resolve. That's the point of it. See, why we have to do it like that is because, see, the thing is, what is the impact it will make should be the empathy that you can create for. See, there is a very great question in theatre we ask. When two people who are brilliant as personally as human beings, man and wife, let us say, two people you love, ethical, great people, both of them, and they're not getting along, they decide to divorce. Let us, the actors on stage are crying, or in the film, they're crying when they do it. Satvika Abhinaya, we call it, you produce, the face becomes pale, romancha, sweat, kampana, everything happens. We call it Satvika Abhinaya. And the audience is also crying. Whose pain is it? It's a very big question we ask in. Whose pain is this? See, in all art, there is this. There is the performer, the doer. There is the story to be done. Message, report, melody, whatever to be done. Painting. And there is the viewer who experiences it. This is the triangle of the aesthetic in any art. Okay? And it is the size of that triangle, that emotional triangle, that is impact. So who feels pain? The story doesn't feel pain. The character doesn't feel pain. Do the actors feel pain? After they exit the stage, they'll do high fives to each other. The audience feel pain? They'll come and see the films again and again. They'll bring friends, family to watch the film. Do they want to give them pain? It's not pain, it's pleasure. It's ananda, because in the truth there is saundarya. That is what we say in Indian aesthetic. You decide the impact for its truth, that's why. I don't think there's any other way of doing it. You have to believe what you're doing. The moment you turn around the question and say, I want to do what pleases you, it's better to make biscuits than movies.
I've been hearing Prakash from 2007, and every time I hear him again, it's a new experience. So, thank you, Prakash. I'm glad I hope you all enjoyed, and this is what we started in a way when we started this festival in 2009, where we started giving feedback, and this is the first time we are trying to do this as an experiment to see if we can bring text to images. And with your feedback, probably we'll try to add more things like this in the coming festivals. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you very much, Prakash.
Thanks.